गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबको स्वागत है। आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे मुनीर डॉक्ट्रिन और पाकिस्तान न्यू प्लॉय। और ये चीज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है भारत के लिए, और इसके बारे में डिस्कस करने के लिए मेरे साथ है मेरे सीनियर्स, रेस्पेक्टेड सीनियर्स, जनरल आता हसनैन and General Gautam Moorthy. Sirs, welcome to Gunner Shot, and I'm looking forward to your intrusions and your interventions on this important topic. Right. इससे पहले कि मैं आगे बढ़ूं और इनका विचार लूं, मैं आप सब लोगों को बताना चाहता हूं ये मुनीर डॉक्ट्रिन क्या है। मुनीर डॉक्ट्रिन जो है, इट केम आउट इन द मिडल ईस्ट इंस्टीट्यूट का एक पेपर अबाउट 3 months बैक। तो इसका मुख्य आइडियाज क्या है मैं आपको दिखाना चाहता हूँ। ये मुनीर डॉक्ट्रिन के मुताबिक they want to project Pakistan as a soft power. It wants to elevate Pakistan as a middle power, economically, politically, and a militarily stable power. It prefers geoeconomics over geopolitics. It aims to revamp Pak's image from being a hybrid state or a state of elitists and all that into something which is different. It aims to transform Pakistan into a stabilizing regional security actor. Asim Munir has big ideas for Pakistan. It is also striving for strategic neutrality. It wants to drive Pakistan away from the strategic dilemma of choosing between US and China. इसके अलावा हम सबको पता है असीम मुनीर, their chief of army staff, has been on an overdrive. And as part of his overdrive, and to put Pakistan on its feet back economically, he's instituted a special investment facilitation council for economic rejuvenation. The word rejuvenation is borrowed from the Chinese idea of rejuvenation of a Chinese dream. He wants to strike a balance between military decision making and democratic governance, remove bureaucratic hurdles for attracting foreign direct investment. He wants to blast, bulldoze, and disregard any and all obstacles in attracting foreign investment to Pakistan. And here he lets the cat out of the bag by virtually putting the army in the saddle. And he's eyeing 100 billion investment and foreign reserves under this SIFC initiative. And there's a heavy reliance placed on Middle Eastern countries. Saudi Arabia, he expects to contribute 25 billion to this program, which could reignite the economy. It's an ambitious plan, बहुत ambitious है। क्या ये हो पाएगा? ये हमें परखने वाली बात है। अगर कुछ हद तक भी हो गया तो it affects India, right? So having given out the larger issues, there are certain issues we will delve into. But इससे पहले कि मैं आगे बढ़ूं, I will ask both our my revered seniors to give their views on it for about 4-5 minutes, and then I will pose a few questions to them. Ata Hasnain sir, please carry on with your overview of this Munir doctrine, its origins, and what do you think of it?
Thank you, first of all. Good evening in Jai Hind to everyone, all our viewers, and to my fellow panelists. Yes, in the next 3-4 minutes, very, very quickly. It starts from not the Munir doctrine, from the Bajwa doctrine. Did you hear about the Bajwa doctrine in writing? Hardly. Right? If you Google it today, you'll find all kinds of references to it. Even there's a Wikipedia page to it also now. But it's all emerged now. It was not there. The Bajwa doctrine was all about a particular media conference that he held at Rawalpindi at one time, which got transposed. Some thoughts which he expressed got transposed into a Bajwa doctrine. His idea was to find relevance for Pakistan all over again at that time, to bring back proper democracy into Pakistan, to make allow the military to have a legitimate right to be able to advise and facilitate foreign policy and defense policy, and of course to find peace with India. But he upset the whole thing by, at the end of it, adding that the preliminary to that is the resolution of the Kashmir issue. So this was all about Bajwa doctrine. Right? Now, Bajwa served for 6 years. Asim Munir as his deputy now, but that time DGISI for some time, has emerged now, has now not shown a strategic face up till now, and suddenly out of the blue comes out this Munir doctrine. Obviously, Asim Munir has been studying this for some time. If there is actually a truth to it, this doctrine too will emerge slowly from the background. It is not going to come up front in front to confront everyone, right? It's going to be worked out slowly from behind, and for that you need time. And Asim Munir is also on a time constraint because he's on a 3-year appointment, which is called extendable. And in Pakistan, everything is extendable. It could extend to 6 years, 9 years, or whatever it is. So Asim Munir is probably already laying the basics down for his own extension. It's good to have something like a doctrine of this nature, looking at the longevity of the Pakistan state, of the Pakistan policy, etc. Having said all that, I also want to draw the attention of my viewers to something which you need to know. Two other major countries in which the military has played a major role. One is Turkey, the other is Egypt. Two Islamic countries which have, well, Islamic country means Turkey today is an Islamic country, but otherwise the origins of Islam, of the secular state of Turkey go back to Kemal Atatürk. The guarantee for the secular nature of the constitution, democratic values, was actually to be protected by the military constitutionally. A similar thing was laid down in Egypt, where Nasserism, if you remember, as a result of Nasserism, you found that at a time when the Muslim Brotherhood came to power in 2011-12, in matter of 1 year, Sisi overthrew it and came back to power again. And so the Egyptian military would ensure the prevention of the Islamization of the Egyptian state. Is Asim Munir seeking something similar? If he is, then it's good. Then he's trying to professionalize the Pakistan army, make it the guarantor of constitutional rights. It's also of civilian rule, so that the Pakistan military does not come back, does not aspire to power beyond what it is authorized to hold in terms of power. Is all this his intent? If it is good, it is noble, but I don't think it's that. Primarily, I mean, we can discuss this out completely. The inputs seem that Pakistan is rock bottom at the moment in terms of its strategic, although it's geostrategically such an important state. It had allowed itself to deteriorate to a situation where its own irrelevance is being felt by itself, by it perceiving its own irrelevance in world affairs. And it wants to come back. It wants to jump back and exploit its geostrategic location in the northwest Indian Ocean, a very large part of the coastline there. The fact that it is at the center of 5 civilizations, all this is very, very important. And the fact that it is a 220 million strong Islamic nation, which always had the aspirations of being a flag bearer of Islam. It seems what Asim Munir is ultimately looking at is to become a middle power, as he mentions it, to make Pakistan a middle power. Not a superpower, not a great power, somewhere there where its relevance will still be recognized. That is important for Pakistan to ensure. Now, how will Asim Munir work on this? Behind the scenes or upfront? His recent visit to the United States seems to give indicators that obviously he intends to work very closely with the United States. And this recent spat between Iran and Pakistan appears to be something in which perhaps Asim Munir himself has played a role. Or at the end of it, you see, this has just been an experimental kind of a role that Pakistan has played on behalf of the United States and at the behest of China has put an end to it. So these are the beginnings of it. If there is such a thing as Munir Doctrine, we are just about seeing the initial trailer of what's there to come. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. You brought out many important points, which we will discuss down the line. Now, Sir General Gautam Moorthy, sir, all yours, your views, your initial views on the Munir Doctrine.
Good evening, viewers. Good evening, General Hasnain, General Shankar, Jai Hind. And this is a very important subject that we are discussing. I think General Hasnain has very wonderfully given a background to this whole Munir Doctrine. And let's just, what I would like to add to it is a little bit about General Asim Munir himself. You know, he was actually a dark horse who took over as the army chief. He wasn't. He was there in the running in the fort that they had said, but being the first quartermaster general who's been promoted directly to the chief. And let us not forget, he was also DG ISI, and till he was removed by Imran Khan, and he was DG ISI when the Pulwama attack took place. People died. Now, General Munir, professionally very thorough. He's known as Hafiz because he knows the Quran by heart. And apart from this, he was considered to be a very professional officer with an impeccable reputation. Now he has taken over at a time when Pakistan is really in turmoil. And Pakistan has got into this hybrid model of governance ever since General Pervez Musharraf left the scene. The Pakistan army has been doing it. There's no need for them to have a coup or something, because they're holding the reins of the government. The Pakistani horse or mule, or the favorite beast of burden there, the donkey, or whatever you may say. Pakistan, as General Shankar had brought out in his introduction, has lost more than about 400 people in 2023. It's an 8-year high. They are having a serious problem on the western border, not on the eastern border at all. And recently, as General Hasnain has brought out, they have a problem with Iran. So they've got very, very hard choices, and it is a model, sort of a paradigm of governance that they have accepted upon themselves, that the army gets involved in the governance. And since the army has to get involved, obviously, if the army is in the driving seat, it will lay out certain areas that need attention. Now, what are the areas that need attention, as General Hasnain and General Shankar have both brought out? The Bajwa Doctrine, yes, geoeconomics over geopolitics, over geostrategy, over everything. And who actually started this hybrid model? It was started by General Rahil Sharif when he was the chief. Continued with General Bajwa and now General Munir. So he has inherited this legacy and is continuing to, and has made this paradigm shift from geopolitics to geoeconomics. They've recognized economic security as a crucial factor. In fact, after he had taken over, he took over in November 22. In about June or July 23, he held a meeting in Karachi that is supposed to have lasted over 8 hours, inviting about 50 to 80 prominent industrialists and businessmen. Now, we can ask ourselves, what is an army chief doing with industrialists? And he apparently spoke for just about 30 to 40 minutes. The rest of the time he was listening. He held a similar meeting in Lahore. Again, he got this time over 100 industrialists. spoke with them, interacted with them, found out what are the needs, and is giving shape to the country's policies. You mentioned about the in passing about the Gulf states. Yes, he's looking for $100 billion investment. Now, which army chief, General Hasnain sir, unless he is in the chair actually as the president, like Kamal Ataturk, or as President General Sisi is today, which other army in the world has been so involved in economics? I mean, geo-economics, the word geo really doesn't gel, it is economics. He's looking at the finances of Pakistan. He took it upon himself to play a diplomatic role to go to the Gulf states. In the US recently, again, he's gone and sort of put his views forward. He's met the United Nations Secretary General also. So there is something about the Munir Doctrine that is guiding Pakistan, and he is making his personality and his doctrine as the guiding force of Pakistan. He's trying to, again, stay away from the strategic dilemma of choosing between US and China. General Hasnain has very clearly brought out the recent spat with Iran. And if Iran even suspects that the US was somewhere involved and Pakistan playing to the US's tune, they're not going to come down very heavily on them. So the Munir Doctrine, this hedging that he is doing, avoiding to get entangled, as I see it, they are going to get deeper and deeper, more entangled into it.
Thank you, sir. You've given a
Thank you.
Sorry. You've given a slightly different color to this entire doctrine.
General Shankar has a very bright throat.
That's okay. It's worth it. Because the subject is so interesting that I couldn't stay away. I have a set of questions, right? We've heard two sides of the Munir Doctrine. Okay. The Munir Doctrine presupposes and hinges on the strategic importance of, or the geostrategic importance of Pakistan at a fundamental level. Now that we know as a frontline state, that has gone past its expiry date in the present construct. Tomorrow what will happen, we don't know. And like General Atta Hasnain said, they're shifting the focus to the maritime environment of the North Arabian Sea. So if we take this into consideration and the widening conflict in the Middle East, because the Middle East conflict is not one, it is about 3 or 4 conflicts going all simultaneously together. What would be the success of the Munir Doctrine, or will Munir use these to, project himself as a frontline state all over again? That's the first question I have. And Atta Hasnain sir, have a go at it. You have to unmute yourself.
Good question. Thank you very much. I think very well thought out. But let's start by mentioning, as I said earlier, this doctrine is not in black and white, and no results should be expected of the black and white nature. Success and failure. This is typical gray zone, will remain gray zone, right? It's not as if the Hamas-Israel conflict has suddenly thrown up the importance of this area of different conflicts with the Middle East. Middle East has always been in conflict. There have been, benign conflicts in a way to say, which have been hidden there, which have been remained submerged and have a habit of coming back from time to time. Pakistan's geostrategic importance doesn't go anywhere. It is there. It's at a very crucial part of the world. It continues to remain there. The only thing is that despite it having such a crucial location, geostrategic location, it is rock bottom in terms of its capability to exploit it. Its economy is in shambles completely. It doesn't have the wherewithal to be able to fight a war, even to even protect its various boundaries. In fact, if you look at it, all 3-4 boundaries are today all in tension. The least tense boundary is actually one with India. Otherwise, the northern borders with Central Asia are alive. You know, that whole complexity of the new great game. Its borders with Afghanistan are in absolutely in turmoil. Now with Iran again, it is in turmoil, and with the emergence of this maritime issue in the northwest or North Arabian Sea, again that area itself is also again coming into turmoil and turbulence. So all these areas are at the most same time in a state of turbulence. What Munir would definitely attempt to do is enhance the importance of Pakistan. And that can only be done through geoeconomics, as very, very correctly said. It can be done through geoeconomics. He realizes that at the end of the day, it is economics which attracts attention. Economics ultimately enhances strategic importance. The example of India is very much there. 1991, $1 billion worth of foreign exchange reserves. Where were we strategically? Where are we today with $600 billion of foreign exchange reserves? That's the stark example right in front of him. So whatever he's going to do, he's doing, or whatever he's attempting to do, is to project a face of Pakistan that as if Pakistan is stable. And that Pakistan is now turning a new leaf. It is not going to support that kind of radical Islam which it has officially supported from 1977 onwards, from the time of Ziaul Haq. Is not going to possibly support that. He cannot say it in black and white. Otherwise, he will run foul with all kinds of internal elements within Pakistan. But he will work towards that. This is what many of the administrations in Pakistan have tried before, to try and reduce the degree of radicalism, fundamentalism, which had taken hold of the entire society ever since the initiation of that by General Ziaul Haq in 1977. So this is a reverse process taking place. If Imran Khan comes to power, you will find a high degree of radicalization coming back. Now, this is exactly what Munir does not want. He knows that if within the Islamic world there is a movement against radicalism, the Saudis don't want it, Iranians don't want it. Anyone is looking at a more moderate form of Islam. Global terrorism had taken a back step. It is attempting to come back. He does not want Pakistan to become the core center of radical Islam and global terrorism once again. If he has to attract that $100 billion worth which he's looking for, he has to make Pakistan worthy of absorbing that and actually attracting it first and then absorbing it. So he's got a huge list of things to work on simultaneously. And the first of them, the least of them, in fact, is the start point, is the election itself. What is going to be the results of the elections? What role the Pakistan Army itself is going to play subsequently? How are they going to counter the streets, something which is very well known to the whole world? Most of the politics of Pakistan is played out in the streets. How is he going to play all this out? These are a tall order of things. First, internal stability of Pakistan, and then start looking at these aspects of how to attract attention and ensure manifestation of the strategic importance of Pakistan, which he thinks is a natural thing for Pakistan to have.
Right, so thanks a lot for that. Now, General Gautam Moorthy, sir, you spoke about, Pakistan, shift from geostrategy to geoeconomics, and so did General Hasnain. And I pointed out in the beginning, the entire success of the Munir Doctrine hinges on Pakistan being financially viable. And I said, he's gone to the Saudi Arabian people and UAE and the Middle East for about $100 billion. And he's given an indication in the SIFC that he will get $25 billion. Very fine. Prima facie tells us that Pakistan will change when its money comes. But look at it. $21 billion which China has put into Pakistan has not changed Pakistan. And they put it in a period of just 3 to 4 years. Right. After that, the Chinese did a study in which they concluded that Pakistan does not have the capacity to absorb more than $1 to $1.5 billion of investment per year. So then you're looking at a 100-year program or a 25-year-old program, ahead. So in this kind of a construct, how do you see this whole story going ahead of this geoeconomics? Gautam Moorthy, sir, your views.
Thank you. I think General Hasnain and you have put this entire doctrine into perspective. It is, as you both said, it is the economics that counts. Now, I mentioned about his talk with the businessmen where he has promised them $100 billion. We have been harping upon it. But the fact remains is, how are they going to absorb it? He is looking at structural reform to make the economy work. Okay, for a moment, let's give it to him. I mean, he wouldn't be asking for $100 if he knows he can absorb only, $100 billion if he knows he can absorb only $1 billion. So they are seriously looking into one of the things that he spoke about with this hyper gathering was taxing the informal sector, eradicating gray zones, and widening the tax net. He's looking at creation of a special task force for structural reforms in the board of their revenue, like we have our CDBT. He is looking at privatization of loss-making industries. He is looking at increasing minimum wage, which is actually going to cost the state more. And you had mentioned right in the beginning, General Shankar, that the aim of the SIFC is to blast, bulldoze, and disregard any and all obstacles in attracting foreign investment. Now, this $100 billion optimism that he put across, and he has said that we will become a G20 economy because they have vast resources. Now, the resources, some estimates are say they're worth about $6 trillion worth of deposits of copper, gold, sulfur, lead, zinc, amongst others. But where are the resources lying? In their most troubled province, which is Balochistan. The CPEC was basically designed to help out in also extracting these resources. The CPEC has just petered into the sand like the Indus River. So what both of you have actually brought out is this very aspect of how are you going to operationalize this doctrine. This doctrine, written or not written, or passed on, spoken about, as we see the Pakistan's economy is on unending downward spiral. The rupee is on a free fall. Inflation is so high. We have seen clips of people fighting for atta. There is a huge problem. The elections coming up on 5th of February. Imran Khan is being kept out completely. His candidates are standing as independents. That means they don't stand from reserved seats where only a party person can stand from. So if you're going to get a street anger and the street expressing opinion, as General Hasnain has said, and the street in Pakistan is a radicalized street. Where are we headed? Where is that 100 billion? Where is that absorption of 1 billion? So what can you do? How can you crack down? He's cracked down on immigration. He has sent back over 1 million Afghan refugees. You've made 1 million enemies right across. From your brothers to an enemy. This is what you've done. So how are you going to attract these new investments? How is it going to play out? I frankly do not know. As I say, the answer is blowing in the winds in Pakistan. Over to
May
you.
I add a word to that, Jan Shankar?
Yes,
Sir.
please.
Very, very interesting observations by General Moorthy. But may I say, first of all, when $100 billion is being looked at, for Pakistan is a monumental amount of money. And no one should expect that $100 billion check is going to be delivered at their doorstep. This is going to come
Correct.
in over periods with a hell of a lot of audit, with a lot of this thing on checks and balances, and over a period of time. That's number one. Number two, if this $100 billion has to come at all, there has to be a sea change in Pakistan. There has to be a transformative change in the outlook, in the manner in which Pakistan is run. Let me comment on one or two aspects of what will have to change. Number one, the degree of stability, internal stability. That, as we have already discussed, Jan Moorthy has also reinforced my argument that the whole aspect of radicalism, the street, etc., it has to change. There has to be an aura of stability which has to emerge from it. International imagery, the manner in which Pakistan is perceived internationally, its eastern borders with India. Forget the northern borders, forget Afghanistan, and forget Iran. Those borders are still later have come under turbulence. It is the border with India, at the moment temporarily on hold. And for Pakistan, it's going to be a major thing to change its Kashmir policy. Remember, Kashmir is getting stable by the day. Pakistan does not interfere, does not intervene over the next 2 to 3 years. Kashmir has slipped out of his pocket. Is this something which is acceptable strategically to the leadership in Pakistan? Instead of a Munir Doctrine to be remembered, a Munir Doctrine will be condemned forever if a thing like that has to happen. So he is between the devil and the deep sea on that. And then also the removal of the Pakistan army from business. How can you forget Aisha Siddiqa's famous
book,
Military Aid? Right? Pakistan is involved with everything from breakfast cereals to making underwears and vests. Everything it is involved in. Can that image continue and then lead to an attraction of $100 billion worth of investment? Look at India. It took time before India could start attracting investments, foreign direct investments, or any other form of investments into India. It is a degree of stability, a guaranteed democratic state with stable borders. It's only then, and when internally you had all that stability here, it took time for it to build up within India. I think Munir Doctrine, the Munir Doctrine itself is working towards that aim, but it's going to take them a tremendous time to be able to achieve this, and tremendous amount of challenges which are going to come their way all along.
So I completely agree with you. The first thing you put across, if I put it in 2 words, is the political legitimacy of the state of Pakistan. That is at stake, and it has always been at stake. It has always been a question mark. Now, with the elections coming up, Imran Khan has already gone on record and said this is going to be the mother of all selections. And the fact is that this election is already, or the election is already warped, because everyone knows Imran Khan is the most popular leader in Pakistan today. And so whatever establishment or whatever government comes out of these elections is going to be wobbly at best. It is going to be another hybrid affair. The legitimacy will be at stake. Their image abroad will be under question, whether you like it or not. So in this kind of an environment, if there's no stability, he's not going to get any, investment. In this kind of a story, do you think his doctrine has a chance of success at all? Hasnain sir, please follow up on what you said earlier.
Well, it's not for want of trying. Asim Munir seemed to be a great trier. There's no doubt. Right at the beginning, when I saw Asim Munir's personality emerging around the 9th of May incident when it happened in Lahore, I was impressed thereafter. His ability to carry out problem solving. Now, problem solving of of a nature of an incident which has happened inside a cantonment, etc., affecting the imagery of or the image of the Pakistan army, etc., is a very minor, small thing. But he showed himself. He showed himself to have the ability to lead, went there and did exactly what I would have done, right? Got hold of the problem by its throat, removed the corps commander from command, took a lot of Sainik Sammelans all along the cantonment to tell the troops to, get into the right things in terms of their ability to do the right things as what the army is supposed to be doing at any time. And made no bones about it that this whole invasion of the cantonment was something which the Pakistan army cannot just accept. No, so obviously he's I think a bit of a hard taskmaster if he wants to be. Thereafter, he has not shown his hand in any way strategically. Now all of a sudden everything is being put at his doorstep, that all this which is happening around the change of image of Pakistan, etc., is all being led by Hassan Munir. Well, yes, I think it's quite right. It is being led by him. The fact that he went to the United States, long meetings in the United States, went to the United Nations, all this has definitely shown a streak in him which was not there in Bajwa, perhaps. Bajwa spoke a lot. But in 6 years did not actually execute any of that. He was far too involved with the deep politics of Pakistan itself. Much of what happened to Imran Khan and things like that, the street turbulence within Pakistan, you can lay it at the doorstep of General Bajwa, but primarily it was this thing which happened. Hassan Munir has been more circumspect, and he's realized the gravity of this whole issue which is taking place at the moment. And he's realized that Pakistan cannot keep going back to the IMF. It cannot rely on China for bailouts. And if it has to be bailed out by the United States through the IMF from time to time, there will be a cost to pay for it. The cost which they've paid just now for doing what they've done on the Iranian border, right? So with all this, there are huge amount of constraints on him. There's no doubt. I think he will seek a rapprochement with Saudi Arabia in a much bigger way, because that's the street which he's looking at from where a lot of assistance will be attracted. I don't think anyone in the Islamic world and the Middle East is any longer looking at radical values, and they don't appreciate radical values in Pakistan either. So radicalism as a domain is already getting diluted, because no one wants it around. It creates more problems for everyone. And therefore, you may find that just to stabilize Pakistan, just to make sure it does not re-emerge as the core center of Islamic radicalism, of the second cycle of global terror, of the AFPAC region, of what is traditionally known as the Middle East, the Arab countries would themselves be interested, perhaps to an extent, of supporting what Hassan Munir is doing. And to that extent, therefore, the possibility of his succeeding with lots and lots of inverted commas is very much there in the air.
Fine, sir. any plan will have a chance of success. So we'll give it to him. But we are looking at it, the fact that let's look at the entirety of the whole game. Now, I'll open another chapter. If you look at the Munir Doctrine, for whatever it has come out, not much has been written about it, is that it has an external orientation and a geo-economic orientation. But he's not spoken one bit about the neighbors, either India, Iran, Afghanistan, or even China, with whom Pakistan today is at odds. How do you think a doctrine of this nature can succeed if you have inimical or hostile relations with all your neighbors? General Gautam Moorthy, sir, please weigh.
Thank you. I think this is a very important aspect that you have brought out. I will come to this, but taking off from where General Hasnain has mentioned about radicalism and the Pakistan army, let me put it across to your audience very clearly that, I have interacted a lot with Pakistani army officers at all ranks, having visited that country while in service. And to a man, all of them were very strongly against radicalism. Every one I spoke, including their lieutenant general when I was a brigadier, and he told me, he says, we created a Frankenstein's monster and today we are paying the price. They understand what has happened. Against Kashmiri groups, the Tanzims whom they were encouraging, whom they were arming and pushing into India, that's a different matter. They're not looking at it so much. They were using the radicalism of these groups. I would put it across that way. But they've understood how radicalism has affected the society, and to a man, they are against it. Now, General Bajwa's doctrine, from whom General Munir has taken the baton from, brought about a ceasefire on the line of control. And we know the kind of kinetic exchange that was taking place on a daily basis on the line of control. And the ceasefire, mind you, has been holding except for one odd incident now and there. General Hasnain mentioned what would they do about Kashmir. I think in the hearts of hearts, and I watch a lot of Pakistani channels, the news channels, their opinion makers, I follow them rather closely. They have sort of come to some kind of a acceptance, a grudging acceptance that yes, terrorism is now not there. India, with the virtual removal of Article 370, has shifted the focus onto development in J&K, and they themselves, and I'm saying this quite responsibly, are not actually pushing radicals through like they used to do earlier. Radicals are coming through. There have been attacks. We've been seeing what has happened, especially on the Pir Panjal range and south of it. We're seeing what is happening. This is quite different today. Nawaz Sharif has likely now, let's jump to the next level. Nawaz Sharif is likely to come back as Prime Minister. The lifetime ban has been lifted. The ban was 5 years. 5 years is over. So the ground is being prepared for him to come back. The street, big question mark. We all, three of us, agree how that can play out. But Nawaz Sharif has been a popular leader in the past. And if he extends an olive branch to India with the army's support, and I'm making this very clear, with the army's support, then there is a hope that, especially if elections are held, democracy as they see it is back in the valley, back in the whole of J&K, we are looking at some green shoots. Now, how the doctrine will play out, we'll have to see to it. But neighbor India, yes. Now let's talk about the neighbor Afghanistan that you've mentioned. You've sent back 1.2 million refugees. Today you are asking the truck drivers who are plying the trade in Afghanistan, we all know, landlocked country, everything is coming through Pakistan. You're asking to see their documents. Earlier this was never seen. You want to give them visas to enter and to exit. Now this is a huge change. Afghans are bristling at it. Afghans have thanked India. We have sent 40,000 liters of malathion through Chabahar to Afghanistan, to the Taliban regime. We have established a presence there. The Taliban is looking towards India. Now this is not being seen too well by Pakistan, but what do? They are not helping Afghanistan. Come to Iran. We have seen the recent spat. And General Hasnain has alluded to probably at the behest of the US. Now, if this probably at the behest of US is sort of confirmed, Iran is not going to take it, look at it in any kind manner. Iran is going to come down very heavily onto Pakistan if they've done it at the behest of the US. So they are in problem with the three neighbors. The only neighbor with whom they can find peace with today is their eternal neighbor so far, that is India. Over to you, please.
Thanks a lot, sir. Now we've gone over the large landscape of the doctrine. Few things stand out. The political stability and the legitimacy of Pakistan will always be at risk as we go forward. That's come out amply in your talks. The second issue is that the war in the Middle East is going to keep widening, and Pakistan will always be pulled into it. Right. The third point, which is very important, which has not come out, but I'd like to put across. As much as Pakistan wants to do a geo-economic shift, there's a global geo-economic shift taking place. And that global geo-economic shift, it is the lines of communication, shipping lines, supply chains, energy security. And in that, Pakistan doesn't figure. These are all the challenges which the Munir Doctrine is going to face in a big way. Okay. The positives, it appears, I also agree with what General Hasnain brought out, that Munir seems to be doing things with a very cool head. He knows the whole story of Pakistan internally. He is systematic and organized, right? He's put out a doctrine probably which he knows he might never be able to achieve, but he will not step back for want of trying, unlike Bajwa, who put out a doctrine and didn't do anything. This man is putting out a doctrine and trying to get to that, albeit with an overbearing hangover of the military on the entire story. Okay. So what are we going to see in the future? Is this doctrine being unfolded in some form, never in written, but on ground it will happen. Some places it will succeed, some places it will fall. That's a given. We can agree with it, disagree with it, criticize it, say it's not going to happen, but it's not going to be for lack of trying on the part of Pakistan. In this context, before I take questions from the audience, I would like both of you to say or put your point of view as to how does India respond? How does India handle this changing scenario? Because the changing scenario in the North Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, the changing scenario in the West Asian construct, linked with the changing scenario in the South China Sea, which is happening, and our own story in Maldives, because our story is also changing, and this story in Pakistan, which is happening. How do we respond? Hasnain, sir.
Thank you. Good question. We in India can do with lesser enemies. I think let's start with that. Right? Our neighborhood is in a bit of a turbulence at the moment, especially with what's happening in Maldives. We don't know we have uncertainty in Bangladesh for the future. Everything is good at the moment, right? And things largely around Myanmar. You've seen what's happening in Myanmar at the moment. We could do with our largest neighbor. I'm leaving out China, our largest neighbor, Pakistan. We could definitely do with a more benign Pakistan. Definitely, let geoeconomics be their mantra. It would be the ideal thing. It would be the coming of 1991 Manmohanics to India. It would be something almost similar to Pakistan. It's all in our favor, I would say, as long as it continues in that manner. With Nawaz Sharif there, if he comes to power, I do believe we have probably the best bet. Because out of all the people who have been tested out so far, at the end of the day, the most benign in terms of his approach towards India has been Nawaz Sharif. There's no doubt about it. But I do believe that things cannot change in Pakistan overnight. It can't be that, all of a sudden you are the best friends of India, or that you can be in power without being anti-India. So this is going to be evolve into a very, very slow change, and that will depend. A lot will depend on how India also responds from here. India has made efforts. There's no doubt about it. Made tremendous efforts. The last 8-9 years, we have cooled off. We've done a hands-off. We've done nothing more than that, except the odd pinpricks which happened with Balakot, etc. We have not done very much. We hope that the Munir Doctrine will translate into something which will ensure a more stable border, which is there since 25th of February 2021. We hope that the same thing will translate into the hinterland in Jammu and Kashmir, where hopefully there will be no interference from the ISI, etc. All this is very, very important for us. In terms of, you see, from the Middle East, there's no doubt there will be a spread of turbulence narratives, Islamic narratives in particular, which are inevitable. There will be a counter against counter radicalism. There will be efforts to bring back radicalism. This turbulence is bound to affect this area, AFPAC, areas of within the Arab world itself, Saudi Arabia. We don't know how something is going to happen in Saudi Arabia in the future, etc. These dynamics are going to affect Pakistan hugely. How will Pakistan handle all this? Will it sort of isolate itself? Will it prevent all this touching it and changing what it is looking to change? Or will it go along with those narratives which are trying to emerge from these areas? Much will depend on that. But I think India, on the whole, if you get the first signs of a stabilizing Pakistan, of Pakistan actually looking at the Munir Doctrine and the Munir Doctrine showing the first vistas of success, 5%, 10% even, I think it's a better bet for India to go along with that. I'm not being pacifist in any way. We must keep our powder always dry. That is something we have learned over the years. Keep our powder always dry, but give that emerging piece a chance.
Your take, sir. General.
I think General Hasnain has summed it up very well. Implications for India, huge. I agree with him that if the Munir Doctrine succeeds to whatever little extent, it's good for us. What India needs to do is to manage the instability. The instability is not going to go away. The instability is going to be there. To what degree it's going to be there, cannot say. But we have to manage the instability with a great deal of maturity on the diplomatic front. And security-wise, we've got to be very clear on a line of control with Pakistan, on the IB with Pakistan. We've got to ensure that the smuggling is not taking place. We've got to ensure that no militants get through. With China, we have to manage the instability. As you can see, China has learned the hard way what Pakistan can actually bring to the table, and it realizes it's actually bringing nothing to the table. So it is important that India plays its cards well. And as General Hasnain has mentioned, I too agree with him entirely that Mr. Nawaz Sharif is a fine bet for India, is a good bet, because Imran is a maverick. He was always a maverick and continues to remain one. And Imran, because of his KP connections, is in the thrall of the extremists. He needs their support. Nawaz Sharif can do without their support. And it will be a more stable Pakistan that India is interested in for its own selfish reasons, I may say. But let us hope that the Munir Doctrine plays out in a reasonable manner, because nowhere in the Munir Doctrine has any overt enmity of India been specified, even in passing. I mean, I've heard a number of discussions on the Munir Doctrine on Pak channels. There's nothing mentioned. It is all looking inwards. And if you recollect, years ago, even President Musharraf said we have to look inwards. We have to sort out the terrorism here. General Bajwa, when he took over, he said our greatest enemy is within Pakistan. So they have come to realize this, that they need a stable Pakistan, and India is not doing anything to make Pakistan unstable, despite what they say about Kulbhushan Jadhav, commander who's under arrest there. That's all, please. I'd like to say.
Thanks a lot, sir. I think both of you have. Brought out interesting aspects of this whole talk. The Munir Doctrine is a work in progress. And this is something we have to track. And we have to factor it in our dealing with Pakistan. While we wish Pakistan well, because we don't need this whole story going off on a tangent, our own growth story going off on a tangent. You can't trust Pakistan. Right? At every point of time, the watchword would be trust but verify. Okay, without giving my whole summation, let me take a few questions.